everyone loves the main characters, but they wouldn't be themselves without the bad guys. I mean, tell me right now who the most memorable characters from the Beyblade Burst series are, and I bet you'd be stuck between the main characters or their counterparts. You know, the more edgy, always want to yell at you and break your bay kind of guys. Well, today, the bad guys will get their win, because not only did some of these characters deserve to win, have more screen time, arc development, and possibly of reoccurrence, but as we all know, most of them never did. To be specific, I'll be talking about Red Eye, Vi, Hyde, Arthur Percival, Lane Valhalla, and Phenomenal Pain. Oh, what? Did I forget some people? Unlike other anime that I watch, like One Punch Man, Dragon Ball Z, and My Hero Academia, just to name a few, their villains or bad guys are literally going out and killing people. They're usually malicious in nature, evil entities, and some just have psycho personalities. But what can we say? Some of us just want the bad guys to win. I've liked quite a few villains before, like Vegeta, Louie, and even Bakugo.
What the hell did you say?
Well, just like Kacchan can be misunderstood, so too are some of the bladers in the anime. Because true bad guys, they're not just breaking toys. Look, true bad guys, they be out here breaking bones. They be taking lives, not only that of the main character. You know how it is, evil is just a nasty business. Now let's backtrack, because in the Beyblade Burst show, characters demonstrating their superhuman abilities to battle each other in the Beyblade Stadium and become the highest grossing blader in the world. It's likely they're winning money from winning these tournaments, and membership fees at their ever so exclusive Bay Clubs. Bah. Yeah, Bay Clubs could be a source of real revenue in the real world too, but that's a story for another theory. Because when we look for a definitive bad guy or girl that force others to destroy or who want to destroy or harm the world in Beyblade, that just doesn't happen. It's, I guess, a bit more complex because they don't hold an evil intent per se. It's more personal. The villain's role in the Beyblade series has not been to eradicate the world, nor to subdue everyone to their will. Okay, maybe Arthur may have tried to or wanted to do something kind of like that, but he clearly has missing skills, screws, and a clear direction. When we talk about villains in the Beyblade Burst show, we are basically talking about an antagonist, and the difference being the evil that they do. But wait, Beyblade Dad, I hear you say, these guys are going out here and breaking Beyblades. Isn't that evil? Well, that depends. On a previous Beyblade theory, I do talk about bladers having their own collections, and while I didn't get too specific, I did mention that the main characters could be making various copies of their bays to battle and practice with. Now, if this is so, then that would mean that breaking a bay is really, well, not that big a deal, guys. Conversely, if these are the only copies of their bays, well, it's something that's bound to happen eventually, right? When it comes to evil, there are different levels, I guess. And if there's a scale of evil, let's face it, these bladers aren't even registered on it. The one person I consider a villain in Beyblade is Ashton, or Theodore Glass, the leader of the Snake Pit. From his actions, we saw that evil could be possible in the Beyblade Burst universe. Experimenting on kids is horrendous, and I'm not gonna gloss over the fact that in the quest for power, he used bladers, including Shu Kuronai, that was only 11 at the time, to manipulate him through brainwashing. He basically left his friends and his family, and he implemented this rigorous training exercises in the Requiem project. A quick side note here, because I do think that this is one of the reasons this season of Beyblade Burst Evolution is regarded as one of the best. There's an actual evil entity that threatens our bladers. They left the country, they overcame immense obstacles to help a friend in need, and it's these high stakes, along with useful Beyblade gimmicks, that appeal to many of us. The other baddies in the show can be considered antagonists, and no more than stepping stones really, punching bags, or plot devices. As villains, they don't fit the typical evil persona. Well, by this point in the video, I actually want to answer the question posed in the title, and that is, what if they had won anyways? Now, let's begin in the very beginning, in Burst. Well, in the end of the beginning. Here we saw that Louie did win. That was a pivotal moment, one where we saw a freak accident not only lead us to many more questions, like, why didn't you do a redo, bro? And like, what's inside of that Beyblade Stadium? Now, this was the perfect setup for the next season. As we know, our main characters had to have a comeback. Quickly moving along into Beyblade Burst Evolution, where we see that Volta Hoy is still blading and is still scouted by BC Soul. Most of the events that take place still occur, including his Beyblade evolutions, but as we move along the timeline, our evil timeline, the organization ran by Ashton, the Snake Pit, gets stronger, and so does Shu, as he joins them to transform himself into the ultimate blader, Red Eye. This time around in the finals, Red Eye wins, and by proxy, that means so does Ashton and the Requiem project. This has a widespread effect that will continue into the further seasons, where I assume that the Snake Pit will be recruiting other Bladers, becoming stronger and more popular throughout the future events of this Beyblade Burst timeline. Along with the many differences already mentioned, Iger wouldn't be a part of this Beyblade universe, as he and Vault got to meet just the same as we know, but this time around, Taiga just wasn't impressed by Vault's previous blading performance, as all his blading reputation became tarnished with major losses, and so Victory Valkyrie and Achilles never came to be, at least not how we know them. Wonder Valkyrie would break, but since Iger's Bay Z Achilles is non-existent, this time around, Red Eye would be the one to do so, even being included in the battle crews. This does lead him to being corrupted and eventually becoming Fi and Hyde's plaything. But that's not all, because as you may already be thinking, Vault is still wanting to evolve his Beyblade. And if he did, it'd be this janky Turbo Valkyrie egg, possibly without burst stoppers, as that was more Taiga's creation, and it would lead us to the dramatic end to a Turbo era in which Red Eye was able to focus on his training instead of helping Iger with his dark aura, and in doing so enhanced his own darkness. Along with the Requiem project in full steam, it would be Fi and his Dread Phoenix versus Red Eye with his Dark Turbo Spryzen in the last match of Beyblade Burst Turbo. There will be no bonding in this match, where in 2 rounds, it was clear to see that Red Eye's strength would overshadow that of Fi's, resulting in Spryzen breaking Dread Phoenix. Now, as we follow the last 3 seasons, let's take a quick snack break with this brief commercial, because as we all know, the next few bad guys or antagonists in the series were questionably laughable, whether it's Prime Apocalypse's epic losses, Lane Valhalla's plot armor, or Phenomenal Pain's 1 episode. Shit. Was it 1 episode? Let me check. Okay, 4 episodes. Yeah, I don't even know who the antagonist really is in Beyblade Burst Quad Drive. Is it Rashad? Payne? Ilya? Either way, let's go. Let's continue into the next season of Beyblade Burst Rise that starts off just the same, where Dante battles with Vault in the first episode and loses to Slash Valkyrie. This prompts Dante to build his own Gamma Bay too, or ask his parents for one. It's not stated in the show, as far as I remember, but the differences quickly build, and that's because Red Eye is still the #1 blader in the world and has now evolved his Beyblade to Lord Spriggan. In this Beyblade Burst timeline though, he is working together with Arthur Peregrine to bring down other top bladers in the WBBA, and I speculate that they would be working together with Ashton to make sure their Bay clubs, the Infernos, and if you recall the Raging Bulls, with top bladers like Joshua Burns and eventually Lane Valhalla, are the only ones making money. Remember that each Bay club is pretty much fighting to see who makes more money from blading by charging a fee to train. But I digress. What of the ending? In the finals, we have a team of Shu, Gwyn, and Arthur, and in this timeline, Shu's dark aura, infused with dark flux, and extra training are a game changer, as it gives the Infernos the edge to win the team tournament. Because let's face it, they would be corrupted by evil or an insatiable thirst to break other Beyblades that was infused with Fi's. The story moves along with Beyblade Burst Surge, and in this alternate timeline, Shu's dark influence makes Lane Valhalla into an incredibly out-of-control blader who is so consumed with darkness that along with Arthur, Fi and Gwyn have been subjected to Ashtom's mind control through the Requiem project, resulting in the darkest team in the world. I'll call them the Raging Infernos, who meet the Hisashi brothers once they create their own Surge Bays. And just like that, both Helios and Hyperion break, leading them to evolve their bays once more and still participating in a tag team tournament set up by Ashton, once again pulling the strings and including his own bladers in the competition, obliterating anyone who opposes him and solidifying their dominance as an ultimate Bay club. And this brings us to now, in the Quad Drive era. And yes, the Requiem project has gotten even bigger and already resulted in many changes throughout the series in this timeline. The reigning champions, Shu and Lane, along with the members of the Raging Infernos, cannot be beaten. And Theodore Glass is making money hand over foot. A tiny blader named Bell makes a claim that his new blading system can defeat even them. But as you already know, at least in this alternate reality, Bell Dazera will lose, eventually teaming up with Rashad and Vault, all being part of the now rundown BC Soul. I can only assume that Phenomenal Pain would be scouted by the Requiem project to break other bladers' Beyblades, with Ashton's Requiem project loose on the world, with seemingly unlimited funding coming in the form of Beyblade sales and tournament wins from his brainwashed Bay Club posse. Every blader forced to make a choice between using dark essence and training until they collapse, or to be constantly beaten by the very same evil bladers over and over, never having the possibility of having the #1 spot because the game is all rigged. And I realize now that the antagonists were actually never there to threaten the main character's existence, only to be a stepping stone for them, making them stronger by pushing their limits. Not many of the antagonists could have been the main villain in the Beyblade Burst show, as alone, they just don't have the motive. Usually, it's just this hyper-intense blader who has a chip on their shoulder for the first few couple of episodes of the seasons. Some of these bladers have even taken a place in our hearts. I know sometimes we like to fantasize or just think about being in the show, or if Beyblade was in the real world, but I think we may be headed in that direction anyways. With more people getting into the show around the world, even making their own Beyblades, we may soon find that life imitates art. I want to thank you for watching, and as always, let's let it rip. Dad's out.